very lovely introduction. Yes, you did discover me, John. Thank you very much. Love that. Right, I'm going to start. I know you've had a lot of poems, and that's a lot of concentration, actually. So thank you for waiting. And I've loved hearing all of the poems. They've been really great. I'm going to read a few poems. This one is from my next collection that's going to be coming out next year with Nine Arches Press. And the poem is called Abort Point. And the abort point is the final point at which a ship can take action to avoid passing the point of no return. Abort point. To captain a ship, a trick of flesh and art, and with a sperm whale in your belly, is no mean feat. The seas, blood black and overreach. Pips in your guts, bellow with men old enough to know better. They call you Boy Wonder with glinting eyes. Where there are gulls, there are eggs, they cry. The land's grief water, lubbers from the Hooghly, murks across the slough of the Trent, Ouse, Lee, to the Blackwater, to the sea. A girl can have adventures, can't she? The first crime's to get on the ship. Mother lets go, no temples, no clan. Navigate by moonlight, read stars, taste the wind, fall short. Learn that dirty weep of sore tongue those sailors speak. Fly speck rations to peck on, hard biscuits in cupboards. From the warm and the saline, a white bird lands on deck. You bathe under its beady eye, no rhyme or reason to cut the calf out on the quarterdeck. Leave it, dazed in its sea of gut blood, gull shriek crying, it's so loud. Slip the baby whale into the ocean with no rituals. There she blows, shapes in black water. They say, worse things happen at sea. Make it a tale of disaster if you want it to. So many Mother Natures. Bitterlings, seahorse, squid, coral, sea fodder, spawn. And this next poem is one I wrote a few years ago now. It's in my current collection of poems, which is called Tigress, again with 9 arches. And this is I wrote a few years ago when I had a rather bleak birthday at my parents' house. It's called Vernal Equinox because it's roughly around the time of my birthday. I've got a car. Sorry, I'll start again. Vernal Equinox. I got my car checked at the garage while out to get milk from my mother on the first day of spring. Sunlight was in his eyes. The mechanic squinted, offered to top up engine oil and battery fluid. From nowhere, from under the bonnet, he mumbled his wife was due in a few days, and he had a stinking cold. I told him it was my birthday. He kept chatting, told me she'd miscarried a year ago today, and soon was going to have a spring baby, a girl. He was a boy to me, a kid from Penlan. I bet you prefer it in the mumbles, I said, just talking, the sun watering my eyes. It's good to have the sea in front of you. Makes you never want to leave, he said, putting the Ford's bonnet down. And your parents, I bet they're proud. It's all I could bring to him, just thinking of my mother's face over a cup of tea that winter in the Gower, lashed with rain, and I couldn't say, "Mother, I'm unhappy," and all she said as she stirred sugar in her teacup was, "There will be no grandchildren." He seemed so young in his overalls as he wiped oil from his hands, telling me, "My dad died when I was small and Mam followed me a few years back." And I had nothing to say in that sun-infested moment, just, I wished his baby girl the very best of luck, sounding like some cut-price fairy godmother. I didn't tell him. I ached for their futures and how I had tied us together in this spell. And this poem is called The Milk. And again, it's very much about my childhood in Wales. For the non-Welsh among you, Mamgi is Welsh for grandmother, and Bendigeidfran is a giant from Welsh mythology. The Milk. My Bengali mother had no idea why I wore a daffodil. So the ladies fed me Welsh cakes and told me why I wore a black hat on St. David's Day. Dewi Sant, I wasn't sure who he was, but I thought I heard him in the waves off the Mumble's Head. I had no grandmothers here, just the Mamgis on the bus. Those crinkled Bridgets were my wet nurses, feeding me chewing gum, peppermints, and their native tongue. Those old ladies fed me stories of frost-covered forests and Bendigeidfran. They were my milk. It's coming in, see, they said with an eye on the wind. Come, pray with us. I went to their chapel, where the wood is worshipped, and where they had me believe that the desert Bible lands were in the mountains of North Wales. And I'm going to finish with a poem which is again going to be in my next collection, published next year, and I wrote it to commission actually about John Clare. It was a curation of poems on the theme of John Clare, who I love. So this is a poem called If John Clare Was My Father. He might have taken me to look at what makes a land and person, counted my meters by weather, held my hand as I stumbled from rocks into spaces that he could understand. I might ask him where summer comes from. Now it arrives sure-footed as I slip into ditches and fissures. Locked down since March, this village retreats to where I am, with just an hour's walk to see bluebells turn to the brightening light and blend into a streak of flesh that withers to make way for wild garlic, fern, then quaking grass, then soft rush. That's where I am, in the in-between, wildflower and weed, wedged in his words and this summer. My bold-clothed dad is in good mood because his dinner's just right, nothing yet smashed. He sits reclined, reading the ancient poets' tales of seasons and courtly flourish from a distant land. He can still taste its spice on the back of his tongue. There's another voice in the sedge grass, a poor boy, singing with words as sharp as a violin, of a God that gives and takes. A man a few doors down waves at me from his mother's house, where he's lived 70 years, sleeps in the same bed where she bled into the streams of iron-rich springs. I'm where the rocks break, the breeze between hedges and verges that settles, twists into the shape of our shadows. That's where I am. A place where rivers forcing upwards burst through in a gash of small wounds. That's where I am. It would be my home if John Clare was my father.
Oh, thank you, Jessica. That was a superb poem to end our afternoon session celebrating World Poetry Day. Thank you so much for being with us and surviving your job to be fit enough to come